Hey everybody, it's Ryan Daly coming at you again with another episode of Super Data Brothers. Today's topic, going solar with analytics. That's right, this is the start of a new series to explore my journey evaluating and installing a new photovoltaic system at my house. This is something I've been thinking about doing for years. It feels like the time is right, I'm ready to roll, and I figured let's use this as an opportunity to teach you how to make real-world decisions using data. And that's what we're going to be doing in this series going forward. Today's episode will focus on data prep using Cognos Analytics, but we're also going to look at other tools that I think you should be aware of, like Apache Superset or Count, some emerging BI tools that I think are doing some very interesting things in the space. So let's get started. Okay, first of all, I wanted to share with you kind of what the project is all about. So what you can see here is my property. It's a farmhouse in Michigan built in 1890, and I'm looking to come as close as I can to going off the grid as possible. I'm not going all the way, but I would really like to supplement as much of my electrical generation with a photovoltaic system as I can. So you can see the property here. The picture is taken from my pond looking at the farmhouse and the garage. And the surface of that garage is probably the primary location where we might be looking to add solar. There are a couple other places. Maybe we'll do a ground-mounted unit. I'll be exploring all of that during this series, as well as looking at how much money I think I'm going to save or how much generation I think I'm going to have versus actuals. So this is going to be an ongoing series that I hope you get a lot of value out of. All right, so let's get started with it. The first thing you're going to need, and that I grabbed, is this usage report. So I got this from my utility. My local utility is DTE. And this is an hour-by-hour rundown of all of my electrical usage from May 1st, 2020 to May 1st, 2021. So that's going to be kind of the initial data set that we're going to be using. And what we're looking today is prep this what we're looking to do today is prep this data to get it ready for us to start to do some more serious analytics and data exploration on. So it's going to be the foundational reporting from which all my decisions will be based. All right, so let's get started with it. I've already uploaded the spreadsheet into Cognos Analytics, and I'm going to go ahead and choose to create a data module with it. So for those of you who don't know, a data module is the Cognos Analytics way of modeling and preparing data. This is an object that will be stored in Cognos that you can build reports and dashboards and Jupyter notebooks and that sort of thing on top of. And it's kind of the foundation for everything that comes after, whether it's reporting or visualization. It all comes out of this data module. So as you can see, we have a pretty basic set of data that came from DTE, right? We've got my account number, the day, the hour of the day, meaning is it noon, is it 1 p.m., is it 2 p.m., an hourly total of kilowatt hours used, a daily total of kilowatt hours used, and then the unit of measurement column, which is kilowatt hours. Now, we could do some reporting off of this that might be interesting, but I think there's a lot more we can do, and I'm going to show you how to enhance this data to get that out of it, to really let us dig into when and how am I using electricity at my property today, and how might a solar system help us reduce that electrical usage going forward. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is actually take a look at this day column. So if you saw one of my earlier videos, and I'll try to get a card up here if you're interested, there's this split function in Cognos that we're going to use to split this day into its constituent parts. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll go ahead and click the column and then choose split. It's going to give me the option of which parts do I want to split the date into. The answer is all of them. So let's go year, month, and day. And we'll choose include day of week as well, because that might be an interesting thing to analyze. Do I use more electricity on the weekends or during the week? And we'll choose next. Now at this point, we have the option to rename this if we want, and we're going to want to do that because the column that we're using here to do this split is called day, and you'll notice it's going to make a bunch of new columns for us, year, month, day, and day of week. Well, we don't want two columns called day. That's confusing for end users. It'll be confusing for me in the future when I'm in here looking at it, trying to use it. So let's go ahead and rename this to day of month, because that's really what this represents. What day of the month is that particular date? So we'll rename it day of month, close edit. Very important to make sure you close edit before you click OK, because if you don't, kind of break some things in here. So click OK, and you can see it split the column out. Now I have year, month, and day of month. So right away, we're going to be able to do a deeper level of analysis than what we had when we first came in here by doing this split. Okay, the next thing I'm personally interested in is kind of the time of year in which the electrical usage takes place. What season am I using the most electricity? Now, you would expect that that's probably in the summer because I'm running air conditioning. It does get pretty hot in Michigan in the summer, very cold in Michigan in the winter, but I don't have electric heat. I have gas heat. So what you would expect is electric use is high in the summer and low in the winter. Well, let's create some buckets to put the months into to help us do this analysis. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on month here, and then when I go into the property menus, you'll see here I have something called create data group. So this is a bucketizing feature. It just makes it really easy to take different values and group them together into buckets. And let's go ahead and do that. All right, so the first thing you always do when you come into these configuration windows or wizards is you always rename what you're doing. So in this case, let's call this seasons, right? So that's what this column is going to be. And we'll create a new group, and we'll start with winter, which is, you might call the first season of the year, okay? Now, what constitutes winter is open for debate. Here in Michigan, winter is honestly like from the beginning of November to like the beginning of April sometimes is how it feels. But for the sake of this analysis, we'll split the year into the 4 seasons equally with 3 months for each season. So today we're going to say that what constitutes winter is going to be December, January, and February. So I'll go ahead and add those to the group winter. You see they disappear from the remaining items in column and go into the grouped items column. And then I can go ahead and just add the additional seasons. So spring is going to be March, April, and May. So we'll add that to spring. And then, of course, summer, we'll go ahead and say is June, July, and August, okay? Now, these remaining items, I could create a new group called fall and put them in there. But the other option you can see as I've highlighted below here is group remaining and future items in fall. So what this is going to do is anything that's ungrouped, or let's imagine we invent a 13th month at some point and that shows up in the data set, that's going to automatically go into a group called fall, okay? So go ahead and click create. And now you can see Cognos has created this seasons column. It always puts new columns at the top of your list. So I like to remember to go ahead and reorder those right away. So maybe we'll put that under month. So we go month seasons. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and save my data module. So we'll choose save as, and we'll put it in the solar project data folder. And we'll call this energy module, say. Save. And now, and this is a best practice I usually use, is I start actually looking at the data while I'm building. And I like to do that in the dashboards tool within Cognos. So let's go new, not data module. Let's go new dashboard. And for the sake of this, now, what I'm doing right now, I'm not building something pretty for presentation. We'll have the second episode of this series will be about building a dashboard, really. This is about data validation, making sure that what I'm building is good. So let's go ahead and add the data module I just created. Here, energy module. And let's take a look at what we've done so far. So, one thing we could do is take a look at, say, the months of the year and hourly total, and just eyeball that. So this month calendar, or this month column, is something that I made using the split function, wasn't in my underlying data. And you can already see some kind of interesting trends here. For example, my energy usage is highest in July, which would be expected. But the second highest month is actually in March, which is a little unusual. And we will dive into that more deeply as this series progresses. I have a theory for why that is, and we'll see if I can prove it with the data. But that looks good. Now, the other thing I might want to see is this season. So this bucketization I did of month. Let's do the same thing, seasons and hourly total. As a reminder, that hourly total is a running total, or not a running total, but it's a total of the kilowatt hours that I've used through my electrical meter. And you can see here, we've got fall, spring, summer, and winter, and it's all listed out. But, and this is an important but, and I really wanted to highlight this for you, it's not sorting in the right order. So this is a string type field, and it will automatically sort it alphanumerically. Well, we don't really want that, right? We know that there's a set order that the months are supposed to be displayed in, or the seasons are supposed to be displayed in, and so we want to make sure that that's carries through to all of the content that we build off of this data module. Now, there's a really easy way to fix that. Let's switch back to my energy module and look at the properties. Now I'm going to go down here where you see members automatic. We don't really need to get into what that does right now. It's kind of a more advanced feature, but if you turn this on to enabled, you'll see that we now have the ability to sort by, okay? And what I'm going to choose is choose to sort this by month, okay? So what this is going to do is it's going to say, I'm going to display the values of this column, but the way I sort them on the axes of a chart is actually by the order of the values in month, which should give us winter first and then fall last is what we're looking to see here, right? Even though they do kind of cross over the year, that's okay. We still want to see winter come first as the first season of the year. So I'll go ahead and save this data module, swap back over to my dashboard. Now I do have to relink it, which takes a couple of clicks. I really wish they would add just a refresh button here, but we don't have that. I'll relink to this energy module. And now when it reloads, you can see we go winter, spring, summer, fall. So again, a very curious thing that winter is my highest use time of the year. Keep in mind, as I said earlier, I have gas heat, not electric heat. So what is going on that is causing winter to be the highest? It's a great mystery that we'll uncover over the course of this series. Okay. Now let's get back to our data module. The next thing we're going to want to do is I'm interested in a time of day analysis. So you'll notice we've got this hour of day field. That gives us the actual hour when something happens. You can see here it's on a 24-hour clock right now. And I want to know, am I spending energy in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, or overnight? And the way I would like to do this is by creating using that grouping feature again. But you'll notice here that the data group feature doesn't exist for time data types, okay? So this is something you might run into, and there's a fairly simple way to solve it, and that is we're going to go ahead instead and create a new calculation. Always name your objects right away. That's the best practice. First thing you do, we'll call this maybe time of day, okay? And then what we're going to do, and I'm not going to write this whole thing out, but I'll copy and paste it and then show it to you. It's really quite simple, is we're just going to insert this case statement, okay? Apparently I didn't grab the first few rows of it, so let's grab those and drop them in. Okay, so what does this say? It says, we're looking at the hour of day. When it's midnight, then we'll call that overnight. When it's 1 a.m., we'll call that overnight. At 6 a.m., we switch over to morning. At noon, we switch over to afternoon. And at 6 p.m., we switch over to night, okay? So this is going to give us our buckets, just like using that grouping feature did. And you'll see when I click OK, we can take a look at time of day, and it has properly categorized it into the time of day that we want. So again, we'll go ahead and nest that under time of day. I like to keep columns, like base columns and the calculated columns next to one another. It's just the way my brain works. I like things organized that way. Okay, the final thing I might want to know is, like, if I'm doing this analysis, is most of my electricity usage coming when the sun is up and my new solar system would be generating? Or is most of my electricity usage coming when the sun is down and I'm not going to be generating? And the reason this is important is I'm considering adding a battery backup system to my setup. So, a Tesla Powerwall, or maybe one of the Enphase battery projects, I'm not sure, but this can help inform that decision and help me decide, is it worth making the investment in a battery to be able to capture more of that sunlight during the day rather than sending it off to my utility and then use it at night? So we'll go ahead and do the same thing. Okay, I'm going to create a data group. Now, luckily, I can use the data group in this case. And we're going to want to call this, let's call this generating hours. Okay, generating hours. And what I'm going to say is that morning and afternoon constitute generating hours. So we'll add those. And then night and overnight constitute non-generating hours. Now, this isn't exactly right, and it really depends on the time of year. In Michigan, our generating hours in the winter are pretty brief. It's really like 7 a.m. to like 4 p.m. because we're pretty high, we're pretty far north here, and so in the winter we don't get a whole lot of sunlight. So go ahead and choose OK. And once again, you can see we've got our overnight, morning, afternoon, and night, and we now have our generating hours. So that's a very interesting point for analysis that I think is going to come in handy. All right. So the next thing that I want to take a look at here is going to be creating some more valuable calculations than just my kilowatt hours. And we'll walk through what some of those are, and then we'll go ahead and finish off this basic validation dashboard and talk about next steps. So the first thing I want to do is create an average, right? I've got this hourly total kilowatt hours, but I want to be able to roll this up into an average, across different time periods. So one really easy way to do that is I'm just going to copy this measure, okay? And then I'll go up here and choose paste. And I'll move it back under its the column from which I derived this. And now a couple things you're going to want to notice here. First of all, the name it gives it, hourly total dash copy 1. We want to rename that right away. Maybe we'll call this hourly average, okay? And then the aggregate type, it's just as simple as changing this from total to average. Now, when this is in a dashboard or a report, it's not going to show up as a total or a summary. It's going to show up as an average. And then the final thing we want to do is under the advanced section here, it's really important to remember to rename the identifier. Because this identifier is what everything is referred to as when you're writing calcs. So it's an important concept to understand. Label is what something looks like when it's on the axis of a chart and you've got the name of that thing on that axis, right? So if this is on the y-axis, it's going to say hourly average on the y-axis, or it might say hourly average in a chart title. You can change this at any time. This is one kind of nice thing about Cognos is you can change the label at any time, and that change will flow through to whatever objects you've built off this model. However, the identifier is what Cognos actually knows this column as. This is, if you're writing a calc, this is what you're going to have to refer to the column as, is by the identifier. And so it's very important that these are accurate and that you rename these early on. If you already have 1,000 dashboards built off of this data module and now you want to rename this, you kind of have a problem on your hands because you got 1,000 dashboards that might break because of you renaming this, because those dashboards are referring to this identifier in order to figure out what field is being used in the various visualizations contained within. So we'll go ahead and rename this to hourly average, and now we're good to go, okay? And I can see this being displayed right here. It's very nice. All right, the next thing I want to know is the maybe a daily average for kilowatt hour, okay? So what we're going to do here is if I click here and choose to do a new calculation, we'll call this daily average. And in this case, we're going to do a little summarization trick that is very useful to know. So the data I have is at the hour level, right? And I want to create a column that summarizes it for the day and then averages that. This is pretty simple to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say go total, okay? And then we'll go ahead and say hourly total times, hourly total rather for day, okay? And what this is doing is it's setting an aggregation level. It's saying, I want you to total hourly total for the values of the day column, all right? Now let's take a look at exactly what that does. Make sure we close off the paren there. Now you can preview this live. I accidentally put one too many underscores there. Okay, you can preview this live and I can see what it's going to give me, okay? So this is really helpful. Now I'll choose OK. And again, what I'm going to do, I'll just drag this down. So we've got daily total, daily average, and I'm going to set this to an average aggregation type, right? So that's one way to do this. There are other ways to do that, but just kind of giving you options here, right? The next thing I want to understand is, okay, how much is this electricity actually costing me? Not just how much am I using, but what am I spending on it, right? And in order to do that, we're going to have to multiply my kilowatt hours by my hourly rate. And I went ahead and calculated what that was from DTE. And right now I'm paying about 18 cents per kilowatt hour. That factors in the raw kilowatt hour charge plus some transmission upkeep charges and taxes. And so, it fluctuates a little bit, but for the sake of this analysis, we'll just call it 18 cents a kilowatt hour. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we'll go ahead and create a new column called estimated total cost. So click here, calculation, estimated total cost. And the estimated total cost is going to be my hourly total kilowatt hour usage multiplied by 0.18 or 18 cents. 0.18. Click OK. And you'll see again the estimated total cost. So now at this, what this is telling me is that, on March 1st, May 1st, 2020, at this time, I spent roughly 16 cents or 17 cents on electricity. During that hour window, I spent 16 cents on electricity, is what that's telling me right there. Okay. The next thing we might want to do is go ahead and do the same thing that we did before. Say I want let's move that down. I want an estimated daily total cost. That's no problem. We'll create one more calculation. Estimated daily total cost. And here we're going to go ahead and do the same thing we did, the same thing that we did before. So, estimated daily average cost. Let's do that instead. Average cost. And we'll do the same thing that we did before, where we're going to say, okay, we're going to total the estimated total cost, we're going to total the hourly total times 0.18 for day, and close that off. All right, eyeball it real quick, see if it runs. Does it look good? Yep, it looks good. So again, I'm seeing here, on the 5th, I spent $6.80 roughly on electricity. Beautiful. All right. Now, a few more formatting things I want to do before I check this data again to make sure it's good. Excuse me. The first thing that I want to do is I want to take all of the kilowatt hour, let's move this guy down. There we go. I want to take all of the kilowatt hour measures, and I want to change the format so I can bulk format these by selecting all of them at once. And we'll go ahead and format this as a number. And I just want to set it to 2 decimal places because this has a lot of decimal places. It doesn't look good. Let's just set it to 2, right? So we'll say OK there. And then I want to take the measures, the dollar value ones, and we're going to format those to currency. And then we'll make sure to set this to USD. And I have another video on this channel. I'll put the card up now for you to check it out about why you need to remember to set currency type when you're doing this. You can't just set format type to currency and leave this as default. You actually have to choose a currency. It's really important. Go ahead and click OK. Now let's save this and go back to our dashboard. Actually, one thing I want to do before I leave here, this is not a friendly name. So let's go ahead and rename this to something like electric usage and cost. Okay, so we'll give this table a better name. It's now called electric usage and cost instead of that long name that we got from the file, the Excel file that I uploaded. And now we're good to go. So let's save this, swap back over to my new dashboard, and check some of this stuff out after we do a little relink here. So we'll relink to the energy module that we've built, and let's take a look at what's going on. Okay, so I'm really curious about how much money do I spend, both how much electricity do I generate and how much money do I spend during generating hours. So let's go ahead and grab the hourly total kilowatts and generating hours and drop that in here. And let's grab the generating hours and estimated total cost and plunk that down here. So very interesting things that you can see here. I am using significantly more electricity during non-generating hours. So when my solar system will not be able to contribute to powering my home, I use more electricity then than I do when the sun is shining and the solar system can contribute to powering the home. And concurrently, I spend more money. So you can see I spend almost $1,600 a year on electricity during non-generating hours and only $1,230 a year on electricity during generating hours. So maybe this would suggest that the investment in a battery backup system is worth it because it would allow me to shift electricity that was generating during the day into the night, which is when I'm using most of my electricity. So these are the types of things that I do. You know, I build this dashboard, I build the data module, I build a dashboard and check the values on the dashboard as I work. It's a very interesting thing to do. It makes, it gives me modeling ideas. I might see, I'm fiddling around in the dashboard and I say, oh, I want to add another column. Like that's kind of how I originally came up with the idea of generating hours. And it lets you validate that what you're seeing out of the model makes sense, right? Do these numbers make sense? I can tell you they do based on, this equals my total kilowatt hour usage that I got out of the file, the Excel file from DTE, and this roughly equals the amount I actually spent on electricity. So the numbers look good, and we are ready to move on to the next phase of this, which is designing an operational dashboard that I will be able to refer to during the course of this project to see, has my electricity use gone up or down? Is the amount I'm spending going up and down? Have we become more efficient? And is the solar system paying for itself? I hope this was a useful video. I'm very excited to go on this journey with you guys. Please, if you like this type of content, like, comment, and subscribe. I don't think anybody else on YouTube is doing this type of real-world deep dive on using analytics to make decisions. So if you like it, help grow the channel and keep it going, and keep coming back here for more of this type of thing. Until then, I'm Ryan Daly with Super Data Brothers. I'll see you on the next video, and until then, take care. Bye.